come with me as we review a 2018 Hyundai Kona. Why am I recording driving? Because there are no Roman things around me. Island famous for no Romans. I don't live in Iberacum anymore, so there wasn't much I could do in terms of getting film of Romans and Romany things. So I figured the most Romany thing most people think of is either central heating or roads. And I love driving. I have a camera with camera mounts on the car, and I figured, hey, that would make great B-roll. Behold, inbuilt studio lighting. I'm going to be painting some Roman legionnaires by Romans. Where did we get the Romans from? Well, about a year ago, if not 2 years ago, I picked up this little kit from Mark's Models in Cork. I was going to use it just for bits. I had it in the cupboard for a while, and then when all of this Gundam thing became trendy, I thought I'll see what all the noise is about. Started putting it together, and it was lovely, very nice. Didn't like the colour though, incredibly flat. So I took it to bits again, took out my Dremel, absolutely hacked it to pieces because I had this story in my head about this wee fella. So way back when, there was a Roman legion stationed in a town in the north of England called Iberacum, which is known as York. The Vikings would have known it as Jorvik. There was a conflict, a battle, a skirmish, something happened around Iberacum, and then they were never heard of again. History never heard of them again. Doesn't mean that they did just disappear. There's lots of theories. I'm not a historian, I just make weird shit.
A fair while after I finished the mecha fella, I finally got my hands on some Roman legionnaires. I picked them up from Foundry Miniatures at Salute. I figured if I was going to find Romans, it would be at Europe's largest single-day wargaming event. I buck any current trends, and I don't use toothpaste to hold my models down for spraying. Instead, I use something called pressure-sensitive tape. Why? Well, it was the first roll of masking tape I grabbed. I do my best to spray prime my models in a strong wind, below freezing, and while it's 99% humidity outside. Chaos Black by Citadel Games Workshop is my ride or die. I'm using a wet palette. My oil paints are on the lid of a lunchbox, and for 99% of this I'll use the Humbrol brushes I got free with the Airfix kits. When I get to things like the eyes or the armour details, I'll move on to a Winsor & Newton Series 7 size 00. This brush has a very small belly, which is the area of the brush that carries the paint. This means you have to go back and forth a lot, but that's a good thing for details. What you don't want to do is to flood the area you're painting. It's easier to add more paint as you need it than it is to try and mop up a lot of bleeding paint running across the item. I'm going to pop them on a base. I have a bunch of Games Workshop ones and ones I make with the scraps of polymer clay and cookie cutters and various texture rollers. So we're going to use those ones for these guys, and it took me an embarrassingly long time to actually get the damn thing into the painting handle. So when I paint, I work out the colours I need as they come in the various bottles, rather than what colour I need specific to the item I'm painting. So to start with, I'm going to work with a red, a brown, a silver, and a yellow for details. There are 8 monopose 28mm lads in this pack, which will make it impossible for me to change any poses, so I'm going to use these guys as a test bed and then find some more freeform Romans for the diorama later on.
So my idea is, yes, they did disappear, but one of the things I liked the idea of was that they disappeared into the future, and whoever was in that future realized that these guys are actually really well-trained soldiers. They were given another guy to join their legion, which happens to be this mecha. I painted this wee fella in Roman legion colors, I suppose. I finished him. I finished a painting of something. Can't see him here, but what I will do is cut in some footage. I have a few more that are based and ready to go in terms of painting, so I might actually paint a few more, see how I feel about it. I enjoyed it. It's the first time I've painted something that I haven't made in a very long time, and I enjoyed the little researching that I did on the 9th Legion Hispana. It's not Hispania, like I thought, it's Hispana. And I enjoyed things like researching military graffiti, Roman graffiti, a little bit more about my hometown of York, Iberacum. Now, I painted the mech a year and a half ago, and on reflection, I enjoyed painting that as well. And I think why I enjoyed it so much was because the building aspect of it wasn't a chore and wasn't something that I had to get through, because it came together very, very quickly. But that's very typical of those types of kits. It made it a lot easier to sub-assemble. So I actually really, really enjoyed that. And I did a first time technique on that for me. I like to paint things as they exist in real life, insofar as usually these mechs are made of metal, and then the paint is applied over the metal. The metal isn't dyed, as it were. So what I did was I primed it and then sprayed it silver. So when I sprayed it silver, I then went ahead and painted on it really, really roughly. So it would have those sections that had been rubbed away through conflict or anything like that. And I think it gave it a much better look in terms of realism. It looks metal because it has the colour on top of the metal. I enjoyed painting the Roman because it was quite simple, because it is a single moulded model. So there wasn't really any worry about trying to get in behind things, or, you know, an arm had gone onto the model above a detail that I needed to get to. So it was a very easy sort of colouring in exercise. And it allowed me to practice a few techniques in terms of highlights and shading and recess filling and stuff like that. Because it's so small, I didn't go into great detail with the face. I just used a very, very, very simple skin recipe. So all in all, I'm looking forward to making the diorama. We'll see how the diorama goes, and maybe it'll appear at Kit Bash Corner in Salute next April. And maybe I'll make that my goal, to have at least one storytelling piece for that. Thank you again for joining me, and I really do appreciate all the love and support. The comments on the last one were so nice. My husband is doing a lot better now, though he is climbing the walls, or rather not climbing the walls, he's screaming at the walls because he is desperate to get back up to speed. So thank you so much for all the well wishes there. Yeah, gone messy again. And it's not going to get clean for the next project. I mean, my next project might well be here still. I don't know what our next video is going to be. Though I have a funny suspicion that it might involve some cattle.